In the main event of Halloween Havoc 1995, the Giant ended up making his way down to the ring and the match was able to happen. During the co-main event, Randy Savage versus Lex Luger, Jimmy Hart came running down to the ring and interrupted the match, talking to Randy Anderson, the referee, and the announcers were wondering what the hell was going on. If Hart was somehow now involved in the Savage versus Luger feud, or if he was just talking to the referee about the match that was coming up next, which was going to be Giant versus Hogan. Jimmy Hart ended up getting bumped off of the apron when Randy Savage threw Lex Luger into him, and he was sort of gone for the end of the match. And then once the Luger versus Savage match was over, Hogan and the Giant made their way to the ring again. This would have been a really good look for Hulk Hogan if he wouldn't have been wearing this throughout the entire show. Basically, to describe what Hogan was wearing, Hogan was pretty much dressed up in 1995 to what 1997 Hollywood Hulk Hogan would be. In the black do-rag, the black t-shirt, black wrestling tights, and in this case, he was wearing red cowboy boots. On the black tights, they had sort of the white lightning going down the side. So you could definitely tell that this was a character that Hulk Hogan was dreaming up that he would get to play sooner than later. Only in this place, he was still portraying a babyface, but we saw him earlier in the night giving away a Harley Davidson for WCW. They had a contest. The guy from Alabama ended up winning it, and Hogan gave him the keys and gave a promo about having the Machine versus Machine in the match against the Giant later on. I still have many questions about the Machine versus Machine monster truck match that went down, but basically Hogan came down and he tried to calm down the fans as much as he could, basically telling them to quiet down because he had thought that the Giant was dead. I mean, we had just seen maybe 5 minutes earlier the Giant fall 5 stories off of the top of the arena, and we didn't know what was going to happen. Hogan and Hart were in the ring trying to quiet everybody down. Hogan was trying to tell everybody that what had happened was an accident and that he didn't have any part of it. And then you could hear the Dungeon of Doom theme start to laugh from the back. At this point, the Taskmaster just makes his way towards the ring and boom! There's the Giant. There's no answer for him showing up in an ambulance. He's not wrapped up in any medical tape or anything like that. Just boom, fresh as can be, here comes the Giant, he's not dead. Once this match is finally about to start, we hear Bruce Buffer, let's get ready to rumble. Hogan takes off his do-rag, and you can see where his eyebrows would be, is that he has painted the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, eyebrows for himself. And this, honestly, you can see from the Giant, get a look from across the ring like, what the hell is this? Almost questioning the match himself, wondering what version of Hogan he's going to get. From here, we get about a 14-minute match that is much like a lot of Hulk Hogan matches when he fights bigger guys. He comes out, he gets a little bit of steam earlier in the match, and then here comes the heat. The Giant is sort of just using his size and his weight to his advantage, throwing Hogan around the ring, picking him up, holding him in bear hugs. And then at one point, in the middle of nowhere almost, we see the Hogan hit the big leg. Then he hits the leg drop. Well, I guess he hits the big boot, and then he hits the leg drop off of the rope. Right as the referee is sort of turning to get in position for the leg drop, we see him fall right down. And it's not until we see the instant replay that we see that Jimmy Hart is actually the one that hits Randy Anderson, the referee, with the title belt, dropping him down. At this point, you can see Jimmy Hart trying to talk to Hulk Hogan. Basically, Hogan's trying to ask what the hell's going on, why is the referee down? And we see And we see the Giant. So honestly, this is his first match he's ever been in WCW. He's very new to the business. He's supposed to be laid out. You honestly see him pick up his head, look at Hogan and Jimmy Hart, and then put it back down. You want to give him the benefit of the doubt that that's what he was supposed to do to show that he wasn't knocked out. But you also got to wonder if he was so new and such a fan of Hogan, he wanted to see what was going down. But Hogan and Jimmy basically almost start to get into it a little bit, where Hogan suspects that Jimmy turned on him. And at this point, the Giant gets up, and we see the Giant start to fight with Hogan and just overcome him. And then from the back, we see Lex Luger and Randy Savage coming running down to hit the ring. Almost the instant they hit the ring, Luger turns on Savage, joining with the Dungeon of Doom, starting to celebrate with Jimmy Hart. As then the Yeti. This guy is probably one of the biggest fails of WCW's whole time in business. He's basically a 7'4" monster who most people know from the Ravens flock as Reese. But basically the Dungeon of Doom, the Nitro before Halloween Havoc, broke him out of a plate of ice, and the Yeti was coming to fight in WCW. I honestly don't know where this character was going to be going. I know that he was in the following World War III, and before becoming Reese, that was the last time I ever saw the Yeti, if they ever used him ever again. But the Yeti came down to the ring as a part of the Dungeon of Doom, grabbed the back of Hogan as the Giant had him in a bear hug, and they sort of just rocked him back and forth. But for some reason, the Yeti was swinging his hips like he was giving it to Hogan in the back. I mean, this is one of the biggest piles of wrestle crap that you ever seen. From here, basically, Bruce Buffer gets on the microphone and says the winner of the match is the Giant, because they are disqualifying Hulk Hogan because he brought Jimmy Hart to the ring as the referee. Even though Jimmy Hart turned on Hulk, they're saying that that was the disqualification. But he says, clear as can be, the title cannot change hands on a disqualification. But we are not doing the Nitro report. But if you fast forward the next night to Nitro, WCW gives the Giant the championship, saying that in the contract, it says that the title can change hands on disqualification. So the Giant ends up winning the WCW Championship in his first ever match for WCW. A pretty impressive feat. We have Lex Luger joining the Dungeon of Doom. We've got, Randy Savage basically beat up. We know from getting in the Future Machine that at the next pay-per-view, Randy Savage ends up becoming the World Heavyweight Champion by winning the 60-man over-the-top Battle Royal World War III. But I don't really know where any of these feuds go from here. So we saw the futuristic Hulk Hogan. We saw the debut and one of the only times we ever saw the Yeti. And we saw the Giant win the championship in his first ever match. Nothing spectacular, but it was fun.